What's up, Speak Your Sports? This is Sparsh here, and today we're going to do a different style of video. Now that the NBA season's over, it's been just over like a week since the Bucks have won their championship. We're going to look into some sort of trade rumors and speculations that have been going around since the Bucks championship. And sort of the team that we're going to focus on today is the Los Angeles Lakers. And I know, this team has been discussed a lot in the media, not just during the season, but also off the season. That's just sort of the expectations you get when you play with LeBron. It's a win now mode, and you just got to keep up, or you might end up finding yourself on the trading block. Nothing to LeBron, but that's just sort of how the situation is when you're playing with the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, we're going to get into it. So we're going to discuss a lot of news that are going around. So I have this sort of window open, and we're just getting lots of news sources off the Yardbaker. And first things first, we're going to start off with Kyle Kuzma and Dennis Schroeder. So there's been an article that came out where Lakers Dennis Schroeder and Kyle Kuzma reportedly feuded throughout the 2020-21 season. Now, according to Jordan Schultz, league sources say Dennis Schroeder and Kyle Kuzma feuded throughout the season, with things going further throughout the Lakers' first-round series to Phoenix. The series loss, that is. An interesting note to consider heading into the draft and free agency. This is a pretty interesting point brought up, although I'm not really surprised considering, Dennis's behavior throughout the season and also sort of Kyle Kuzma's sort of expectations as a player. When you see Dennis Schroeder, there was sort of a article released not too long back where he was asking for around, $100 million deal instead of like a 4-year, $22 million deal that he declined earlier. And that sort of value has dropped down a lot, especially considering this first round series loss to Phoenix, where, Dennis Schroeder even had a game where he just dropped straight up 0 points, right? This season he had with the Lakers, he averaged 15.4 points and 5.8 assists while shooting 43% from the field, right? And yes, it says that they're expecting 100 to 120 million. And what's interesting is that there has also been a report released today. I unfortunately don't remember the source, but Schroeder wants that kind of money, but the Lakers do not really see him as much more than a sixth man. So, we don't really see that Dennis Schroeder will probably stay with the Lakers long term. It seems that he might end up being on the trade block, going to another team instead. Now with Kyle Kuzma, though, it's kind of a sad situation because, he was thriving in his rookie year and the sophomore year after. But sort of after, the Anthony Davis trade and all the other, young guys gone, Ball, Ingram, Randall, Clarkson, Kuzma's taken more of a role sort of off the bench. And, he has not been really happy with that. He's expressed that multiple times throughout the season. And recently came out, he was comparing himself to Jason Tatum. While that did seem like a valid comparison at the draft during their time and during their rookie year, Tatum has taken a significant edge over Kuzma. And, Kuzma's kind of been more of a sixth man since. And, he's had lots of sort of shooting inconsistencies. And he still sees himself on the level of Tatum. I appreciate the confidence, but, the Lakers do not really see him as that much. And there's also been reports that Kuzma is ready to move on, right? And we might also expect to see him on the trading block as well. Perhaps it's just about time that we see him thrive with a different team and get a starter kind of role so that he can produce more offensively. Now the sort of next article, this actually came out pretty recently as well. I think it came out yesterday. And this article, it says, Lakers rumors, reality of signing Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan. The famous backcourt from Toronto, especially before DeRozan got traded for Kawhi. This is sort of an interesting report. I honestly did not expect this, and let's just get right into it. So this was by Brad Turner of the LA Times. And it says, a couple of options happens to be the longtime backcourt partners of the Toronto Raptors, Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan. And according to Turner, both players have an interest in signing with the Lakers. Even better, DeMar will take a pay cut. and his pay would be less. He said he would be willing to take less, which is less than $27.7 million he earned last season in San Antonio. And according to people not authorized to speak publicly on the matter. This is pretty interesting because I'm not really sure if both players are willing to take the pay cut. Because during the trade deadline, and Lowry was sort of expressing sort of his free agency intentions, saying that he wants to compete, but he also wants to get the bag. So you're definitely going to sign him for something above $20 million a year. But I'm not really sure if he's going to be taking a pay cut because he's emphasized that a lot throughout the season, especially near sort of the trade deadlines. And, the situation with Toronto, right? Toronto is sort of in a weird sort of spot after the championship. Kawhi left. And then the following years, Serge Ibaka and Marcus Gasol left in free agency as well. And Toronto has been making some sort of moves to sort of make their core a bit younger, but also be able to compete at the same time, right? Their recent moves, they got Gary Trent Jr. by trading Norman Powell. They signed Khem Birch after he got that stuff sorted out with Orlando, agreeing to the buyout, and then they also signed Freddie Gillespie. But the thing is with Lowry is that I don't really see him going to the Lakers just like walking off unless it's sort of a sign and trade deal. I'm not really sure what pieces the Lakers will really offer that would sort of entice the Raptors to sort of make a trade, because during the trade deadline, there have been lots of teams that have made offers to Toronto, and Masai easily rejected them because he really, really put Lowry's value really high on the trade market. And now, as a result, right, he is sort of one of the most sought after players during this free agency. And Lowry also, he finished his season. The last game he played was against the Lakers, where he had like 30 plus points, right? So he's still a great player, sort of having that aging like a fine wine kind of style of play. And honestly, he'd be pretty great for the Lakers. You could definitely have somebody running the point like Kyle Lowry, but he can also do other stuff off the ball. He can get you steals, and he can also be a pretty good defensive presence in the paint, as he can easily draw charges against bigs that are driving in, right? So that would be good for the Lakers. They would be able to get somebody that can also create a mid-range shot and also shoot from the three, and also add some defensive tangibles as it. And with DeMar DeRozan, they could definitely add some guy that can create the mid-range shot and the three as well, right? And DeMar has also evolved his play where he's been able to sort of pass more and also be able to assist, and instead of just being sort of a one-dimensional scorer kind of guy. Though it's interesting because at the beginning of the season and sometime here and there, he said that he would like to play in the East. Not sure if that was, in the East with Toronto, possibly reunite with Lowry. But, if DeMar does go to the Lakers, that would be pretty interesting, because maybe we could actually see a higher incentive for Kyle Lowry to sort of reunite with him, because, these guys are really tightly knit, and, they always keep in contact with each other, and it would be nice to see them sort of win another chip together. And especially for DeMar, as this will be his sort of first chip that he will be aiming for, right? There's still lots of years left within those two, and I don't think they're really going anywhere soon. Now, this is another sort of interesting article here. This was released a few days back, and the Lakers were interesting Russell Westbrook in a sign-and trade with the Washington Wizards. So this is an article, and statement is by Mark J. Spears of The Undefeated, and it says, according to sources, LeBron James and Los Angeles Lakers have been on the hunt for a veteran point guard, and Paul is on the list. Paul as in Chris Paul, and I'll discuss more about that later. There have also been talks about Washington Wizards star Russell Westbrook being a potential trade candidate to move back home to the Los Angeles Lakers in a sign-and-trade deal That could include free agent point guard Dennis Schroeder, forward Kyle Kuzma, and guard Talen Horton-Tucker. See, I'm not sure. This does not seem to really make any sense, especially for the Lakers, because the way that the system runs around LeBron, he's really ball dominant, and if you're going to add another ball dominant guard like Russell Westbrook, what are you going to have LeBron do sort of off the ball? It just doesn't really make sense to me. And I'm not sure if you would be able to want to add somebody like Russell Westbrook to the team, because I'm not sure how they would mix with each other. Like, who's going to be handling the ball more than the other? It did work in Brooklyn, but then again, Kyrie Irving was able to sort of take the back seat and let James Harden facilitate more, but Kyrie is also able to sort of do more off the ball, be able to create the shot from the mid-range and from the three. But I'm not sure if Russell Westbrook can do that as effectively, right? And I'm not sure what LeBron James is really going to do off the ball more. He's really known for the playmaking, right? And, he's definitely made himself a mark as one of the best passers in the league, right? And to have the ball taken away from him more, like, what are you going to get him to do more? Are you going to get him to sort of drive more to the paint? But then you got Anthony Davis, right? So it's sort of conflicting over there, and I'm not really sure how this is going to work, because you want to build a team around LeBron, but you also got to realize that he's age 36, he's entering like year 19 or something, right? And we're definitely noticing the father time catch up to him. We're seeing the injuries become more prevalent, and we're seeing his sort of offensive output start to decrease more, but he's still able to generate the assists and rebounds sort of on his end. But yeah, I don't really see this working. I don't know if this will happen. I really doubt it. It was just a trade offer, I guess, or like some sort of discussion, but I'm not really sure if this is what the Lakers truly need, right? Whether they want to get some sort of super team or, yeah, I'm not really sure how this will work. And I'm not really sure if Washington would even accept something like that as well, to be honest. Unless they're sort of rebuilding. It really depends if Bradley Beal will also demand a trade. Now, there's been rumors about that going out. I'll look into that a bit later, but it doesn't really seem like those sources are reputable. I'll take some more time and look into it and perhaps discuss this in another video. But for now, let's just sort of continue looking at some other sort of news that have been going around. Now, this is interesting. The Lakers are viewed as the quote-unquote most realistic threat to lure Chris Paul away from the Suns. This is interesting because after the Phoenix Suns loss in Game 6 to Milwaukee, Chris Paul, they were up 0-2 and then they lose 4 straight to Giannis and etc. But there was a word by Magic Johnson saying that the Lakers should be the best place. I'm not quoting him exactly, but sort of paraphrasing. But the Lakers are like the best place for Chris Paul to go to. And a few days later, Mark Stein, NBA insider, he released something. And I'm just going to read this here. The Lakers pose a very realistic threat to steal Paul away from the Suns. So this is the quote. So I still see the Lakers as the most realistic threat to derailing the Suns' hopes of re-signing Paul. No matter how hard it is to pinpoint a pathway for them to acquire him because of the cap complexities. Now, the reasoning, we know Paul would want to play again in Los Angeles, where his family still resides during the season, and also that he would want to play alongside LeBron James. Pretty interesting. Chris Paul can decline his sort of player option, but he did express that he wants to play, few more years. After the finals loss, he did mention in his press conference that he's not retiring anytime soon. So we do expect to see him in the league for a few more years. My opinions on this, sort of same thing like we have with Russell Westbrook, right? Like, Chris Paul also needs the ball a lot, right? He's also like a really good ball handler, and yeah, it would be great, point guard to have, but compared to like Lowry and you know, Chris Paul would definitely need the ball a lot more. Not really sure how, sort of the off-ball movement would go with the off-ball play movement will go with like Chris Paul, LeBron James. I'm not really sure how they'll be able to sort of adjust their offense. And when you consider like the run that Phoenix had, I would say that it would be good for Chris Paul to run it back. He's had a lot of success with the players this season. He's been a really big inspiration for Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton, Cameron Payne, Mikal Bridges, etc. And he would be a really great mentor for the Suns. And I think it would just be pretty exciting to sort of have some more parity distributed along the league. I'm not really too much a fan of, sort of just like always, the Lakers being a super team. But then again, I get it, like they're one of the most popular markets out there. But I'm not really sure if this is going to happen. I predict that he is more likely to stay with Phoenix, sort of on a 3 or 4 year deal instead of going to Los Angeles. But hey, I mean, you can never sort of count out the possibility that he returns to LA, but this time he plays for the Lakers, which he didn't get the chance to back when he was in New Orleans. Now, this sort of last topic. Spencer Dinwiddie reportedly has interest in signing with Lakers in free agency. This is actually a pretty interesting move, and this is something I think would be actually pretty good for the Lakers to add another star to this team. So this is by Brad Turner, the report. And I'm going to read this here again. So guard Spencer Dinwiddie, who starred at Woodland Hills, Taft High, California, declined his player option for $12.3 million with Brooklyn to become an unrestricted free agent. Dinwiddie, who missed most of last season because of a partial ACL injury, has interest in joining the Lakers. This is actually a pretty good option for the Lakers to get. Dinwiddie has that expressed interest to play in LA, but he did say earlier that I remember off an interview that if he's going to play with Brooklyn, that he's going to look for some big money, right? So it seems that he's looking for the money. If not, then he'll go somewhere else, and he did express that he's willing to go to other places. So that's pretty interesting to see what's going on, right? So Dinwiddie, he's a great shot creator. It's unfortunate that he had the ACL injury, but I mean he's a player that the Brooklyn Nets would have definitely loved to have during their run. To have somebody else create a shot other than Kevin Durant. While James Harden and Kyrie Irving were injured, he's a really great piece. He would be a really great sixth man to sort of replace Kyle Kuzma and Dennis Schroeder, right? Especially because the Lakers sort of want to let go of those two guys. Well, it seems like it, right? But I mean, we'll just see about this, right? This is a pretty interesting set of news, for the Lakers, and these moves could honestly help put them above other teams easily, right? And put them back into sort of title contention again. The Lakers need to sort of do some retooling and sign some different guys, get some bigs back, because losing McGee and losing Howard, they really lost a sort of defensive identity, and they could also benefit by signing some shooters as well, like DeMar or Spencer Dinwiddie. But I'm not really too sure about sort of the Kyle Lowry, the Russell Westbrook, and the Chris Paul sort of ideas. I think the Lakers would be better off just sort of having some shooters added and some defenders, some big defenders, big frame, long wingspan kind of guys to sort of be that rim paint presence instead of a point guard, because I think it would be better to just sort of focus on LeBron running the paint, sort of facilitating all the passing, etc. And that's about it. It talks about Washington Wizards star Russell Westbrook being a potential trade candidate to move back home to the Los Angeles Lakers in a sign-and-trade deal that could include free agent point guard Dennis Schroeder, forward Kyle Kuzma, and guard Talen Horton-Tucker. See, I'm not sure. This does not seem to really make any sense. I don't really see this working. Man, you gotta be serious. The Lakers front office really just did this trade? Are you serious right now? Whew, oh boy. Let's get right into it. Welcome to Speak True Sports. My name is Sparsh, and today we're going to be covering the Washington Wizards and the Los Angeles Lakers trade that just happened during the draft to get Russell Westbrook. Now, before you watch the video, please make sure to leave a like, please make sure to comment, please make sure to subscribe to our channel, and make sure to press the bell for push notifications so you're always up to date with our content. Now, back to the video. So, during the draft, this was like right at the beginning, we got a tweet from Shams and Woj saying that, and I'm going to quote this tweet, "The Washington Wizards have agreed to trade Russell Westbrook, 2024 second round pick, 2028 second round pick to the Los Angeles Lakers for Kyle Kuzma, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Montrezl Harrell, and number 22 tonight," sources tell at The Athletic and at Stadium. Okay, so my reactions to this. Why? Why did this have to happen for Los Angeles? This does not make any sense. Now, I was talking about this in a previous video about the Lakers sort of off-season, trade kind of rumors that have been happening. But, when I see like a ball-dominant guard like Russell Westbrook, I start to question myself, like, who's going to be handling the ball more? Is it going to be LeBron or is it going to be Westbrook? Okay, so let's say you have LeBron sort of taking a step back and letting Westbrook handle more. What's LeBron really going to do off ball? Are you going to expect him to be defending a lot off ball? Because, what we've seen during the season off the ball, LeBron doesn't really put as much effort on the defensive end. Though he does turn it up in the playoffs, it's not really something that I can really trust on. And another problem that I really have with Russell Westbrook is that during the playoffs, and I know he does an amazing job in the regular season. This guy is the absolute triple-double king. His intensity is just, it's unmatched by any other player that we've seen in the league. Like, I've never seen anyone so relentless. But the thing that I noticed in this Washington Wizards playoffs, right? Russell Westbrook, he refused to sort of slow down his game. He was always rushing a lot, and he was always making these low IQ plays, especially near the end of the game. Countless turnovers, right? Extremely poor shooting from the three. I think Russell Westbrook's actually ranked the lowest in three-point percentage. And, people are like, okay, this is going to work for LA. Russell Westbrook's going to adjust. LeBron's going to adjust. AD's going to adjust. Okay, so let's say they adjust, right? But I can't really trust that because Russell Westbrook had a chance to play with KD, right? That didn't work out. He had a chance to play. I mean, that was probably the best chance because they actually went to the finals. He played with Harden, right? They were nearly beaten by Chris Paul's OKC, and then they lost to the Lakers in 5. Russell Westbrook really flamed out during that series. He had multiple possessions where, he was constantly turning it over, always just, chucking up contested shots, shooting low IQ three-pointers, right? It didn't work with Harden, and it didn't really work with Beal either. Yeah, Russell Westbrook, he produced some pretty crazy stats, but at the cost of efficiency, all these turnovers, really terrible plays. And I just don't see this working, Okay, you're going to add somebody that's relentless on the offensive end. You might get some more boards and assists. Okay, that's fine. But what are you really going to do on the defensive end, right? Having LeBron off ball on defense or Westbrook as well, I'm not really sure how that's going to work, right? Now, there was also reports happening around these past few days. The Lakers are also trying to pursue Buddy Hield from the Sacramento Kings. Now, personally, I would have thought that would have been a much better trade because the Lakers would definitely benefit from having more spot-up shooters, right? And I don't know how adding a ball-dominant player would really benefit the team because, I mean, if you were to trade Kuzma and not KCP, I'd be like, okay, maybe I could see that. But in this sort of situation, you're losing a lot of pieces, right? You're losing Kyle Kuzma, KCP, Montrezl Harrell, and the number 22. I mean, I don't think the number 22 is really going to have too much of an impact because the Lakers are in more of a win-now kind of mode, right? But see, the thing is, you lose a really good role player in Kuzma, right? And I know Kuzma's had a lot of sort of inconsistencies this season, but I truly feel that, at his peak, he can definitely be a great shooter and even a pretty decent defender. And at worst, he can be a really great six-man. he just wasn't really used great on the Lakers and could have definitely benefited from some more playing time, even though he did have some sort of flameouts. I really do think that this guy does deserve a second chance, and Washington could definitely take advantage of this. KCP, you lose another great shooter in him as well, right? He's a good 3-point shooter player for the Lakers, and he can also be pretty well on the defensive end. And Montrezl Harrell, I mean, it's crazy because he was really not used much during the season, right? After he opted into his player option, right, I was sort of thinking that, okay, this guy's definitely going to be used as a trade asset. And it just happened immediately right after, right? Within like 24 hours after opting into that player option, right, he's now involved in that trade package. I mean, you could definitely have some sort of, I know he's not ideally big, but you can definitely have that guy in the paint player. And see, you're losing a lot to get somebody so ball dominant when you already have LeBron, who can definitely be that ball dominant guy, and he doesn't really have to go so much on the offensive end because you also have AD and some other guys as well, right? Just let LeBron focus on the playmaking, but now you have to really rely on LeBron and Westbrook for the playmaking. I mean, if Westbrook can take a step back, right, like what he did with Houston and OKC, then I guess, yeah, it could work. But I mean, we saw it happen before, and since KD left, right, Russell Westbrook hasn't really gotten out of the first round, other than the Houston series, right? But then again, after that Houston series, they lost in 5, and that was a really sort of embarrassing series for Westbrook and Harden. Personally, I think the Wizards won this trade because don't forget, Russell Westbrook and Bradley Beal account for 70% of the Wizards' cap, and by letting go of this, you're letting go around 35% cap in with Russell Westbrook, and you're adding some more shooters to your squad, right? And you add some more of a defensive identity to the Wizards, and this would be great to have around Bradley Beal. And there was just some more reports recently saying that Bradley Beal would be willing to stay with the Wizards, and that's a good sign for them because now you're building a better team around him, and you can have him be more ball dominant instead of Russell Westbrook and Bradley Beal, right? And for the Lakers, I've been seeing some sort of proposed trade lineups where you could have Talen Horton-Tucker, AD, LeBron, Westbrook, and Gasol. Okay. I mean, I'm not really sure why, they need Talen Horton-Tucker in that sort of starting lineup. I feel like he would just need some more time to sort of get used to it. He's still a pretty young player. With AD, I mean, it really depends, right? How much work is he going to put in the offseason? If he puts work in the offseason and really works on his conditioning, then yeah, he can definitely be that, for sure, number one guy to run your offense around with LeBron as the playmaker. But now you have LeBron as your one of your ball dominant guys, and then you have Russell Westbrook, and it's just like, okay, I don't see this meshing well. And are you really sure you're going to be able to keep Gasol on the starting lineup, or will you have Drummond instead? And I'm not really sure what Drummond's future is like. There have been rumors about Drummond possibly being traded. But if you have Drummond, he's going to, he clogs up the paint, and he really ruined the Lakers' offensive flow last season. I mean, there were just so many times where he just stood in the paint. He would just get his own rebounds off his misses, but then after that, he just stayed there, and then AD and LeBron would be out in the perimeter or out in the mid-range instead, where AD and LeBron are really known for driving into the paint, making those high efficiency shots inside that area, and it just really didn't work for them. And it would be good if they have Gasol there. He can still be a great defensive center, being able to set up the screen and stop the other bigs, right? Marc Gasol is a really good defender against centers like Embiid, for example, right? We've seen that before, especially, at this age, he's been adjusting to that. But he's also really known for his playmaking as well, right? A playmaking center. He has really great offensive IQ. So, when you add Russell Westbrook to that, I feel like you're also taking away some sort of that playmaking ability from Gasol. And yeah, I'm really not sure how this is going to work out for the Lakers. This seems more like kind of just adding a star piece instead of adding like a piece that would fit, right? As I said, Buddy Hield would have been a much better fit for the Lakers because you had that spot up shooting, right? And you could still have LeBron and AD really take control of the offense. I know LeBron's, he's starting to slow down with time, but I mean, he's even right now at like this age, like 36, he's still one of the best players in the league, and he's really explosive when it matters, right? So that's about it, really. I mentioned the previous video with the Lakers stuff that this is not going to work. I'm still going to stand by that prediction. What do you guys think? Make sure to leave a like and make sure to comment your thoughts in the comment section below. And don't forget to subscribe to our video and press the bell for some push notifications. This way you're always up to date whenever there's new content from us. And this also encourages us to post more for you guys, right? Make sure to also subscribe to our Instagram, follow our Twitter, Speak True Sports, Speak True Sport respectively. And make sure to also check out our website, speaktruesports.com, where we always upload articles from other sports ranging across the NBA to the NFL, hockey, etc. This is Sparsh. Make sure you take it easy, stay safe, and stay awesome. I'm signing out.